Hello, welcome to These Political Times. I'm George Wilson. Today, I'd like to acknowledge just how hard the president and his allies have worked to convince America his campaign didn't collude with Russia in 2016. In fact, even now, with Mueller having done his job and retired, Trump can't seem to let go. If he's not telling us there was no collusion, he's insisting he's the victim of a witch hunt. If he's not claiming there was no obstruction, he's charging everyone within earshot of perpetrating a Democratic hoax. Why the broken record routine? Why so defensive? Could he be trying to throw us off the trail? I mean, from what cognitive scientists say, repetition is a key component of a disinformation campaign. They say that's because it conditions people to believe whatever you're saying is true. And then there's Trump's chief spin doctor, Attorney General Bill Barr. His early mischaracterization of the Mueller report's findings typifies another key disinformation technique: strike first. That's because we tend to be overly influenced by the first thing we hear about a subject. Cognitive scientists call this the anchoring bias. And alas, by waiting for weeks to testify before Congress that Barr had misrepresented his findings, Mueller played right into Trump's hands because Trump was out there every day claiming total and complete exoneration. And Breitbart, Fox News, and all the rest of the conservative media were busy reinforcing Trump's message, dishing out wild Russian conspiracy theories on top of illogical, some would say pathological claims. All this self-serving Trumpian jousting with the truth, though, surely deserves to be memorialized. Hence my next song, The Unhinged Fringe. Desperate, alright fringe has come unhinged at the prospect of losing power to their mythical deep state. Instead of honoring America's free press tradition, they promote lies and false propositions, like Bill Barr's claim that Mueller gave Trump a clean slate. Hannity and Limbaugh lead the fifth column's attack, proclaiming their formerly beloved special prosecutor a hack. Stop the FBI before it's too late, the freedom caucus shouts. Which begs the question, too late for what? I'm expecting suggestions. Could it be to prevent the truth from coming out? Fox News Truth Challenge, talking heads shun U.S. intelligence agencies to collaborate with the Russians instead, mouthing the very same words the Russians use in profusion. Trump's errand boy Rudy Giuliani leads a chorus of deceit. Altogether, they do Russia's bidding, rinse and repeat, in hopes of leaving Trump's Russian affairs in unresolved confusion. Least there be any confusion, though. Let's pause here a minute and give credit where credit's due. Specifically, I'm thinking of all those alt-right players in Congress who've been supporting the president's efforts all along. From the Tea Party to the Freedom Caucus, they've never heard a conspiracy theory they didn't like. To refresh your memory, the alt-right or alternative right is the faction within the Republican Party that used to be called the lunatic fringe. Now, they run the asylum. They're especially adept at fabricating alternative explanations, otherwise known as lies, like that the DNC's emails were stolen not by Russia, but by the Ukraine. Convenient, huh? Next, they'll be telling us it was Hunter Biden who set Don Jr. up to meet with all those Russians in Trump Tower. It's not that Don Jr. wanted to get dirt on Hillary. He was just trying to help his buddy Hunter qualify for a Russian adoption. Oh, and then there's the one about how the deep state was out to get the president, led by two illicit lovers whose foreplay apparently consisted of dissing Trump by text. Bad, cried a scandalized Trump, his tender ears burning. Lock them up. Now, nobody's worked harder to help Trump fulfill his punitive authoritarian instincts than Representative Devin Nunes, the president's official bag-carrying gopher and congressional suck-up. As you may recall, Nunes is the former Intelligence Committee chairman who holds the unique distinction of having betrayed his fellow members. It seems he snuck over to the White House in the dark of night and turned over the committee's entire strategy and findings on Russia to the president, who just happened to be the subject of the investigation. Apparently, he thought separation of powers meant separate Congress from its powers. Although his duplicity eventually forced him to recuse himself, you'll be pleased to know that Devin remains a stalwart Trumpian cult member defender. In fact, he was last seen collaborating with disgruntled pro-Russian Ukrainians in an effort to become Trump's greatest living hero. How? By turning up something, anything, that Trump could use to besmirch Joe Biden. Unfortunately, thanks to the Republican Senate's recently released Intelligence Committee report, all this collective hard work on Trump's behalf may have gone for naught. Seems it revealed an inconvenient truth. Trump's 2016 campaign did indeed cozy up to Russia, demonstrating what the report describes as a consistent pattern of collusion. Majority Leader McConnell proudly earns his title, Moscow Mitch, with his support of Russian interference that throws America in the ditch, while congressional clown Jim Jordan courts a useful idiot's fate. That arrogant, profit-crazed Aussie multi-billionaire Murdoch tries to divide us with his twisted Fox News talk in hopes of handing Trump his very own authoritarian state. Well, the Russians deny collusion. Naturally, they wish to avoid embarrassment. Even if they bought into the Trump illusion, they couldn't have known he'd be this incompetent. It may look like they made out like bandits, but they've shown the world they can't be trusted, while saddling themselves with a fool who is about to get busted. But the call to Trump ain't given up yet. They're pulling out all the stops, including the alt-right's infamous demonization technique. Like, did you know that the true motive force behind the treasonous Russia investigation is none other than that evil scourge, the most dangerous villain of our time, Hillary Rodham Clinton. Yep, doting grandmother by day, marauding murderer and rapist by night. At least that's the kind of sordid nonsense that has helped the right wing maintain its claim to the title of lunatic fringe. Not only does Hillary appear to own their every collective waking hour, she also seems to haunt their dreams. Benghazi, anyone? Meanwhile, the alt-right is busy feigning outrage at the drop of a gavel. If you've ever watched any of the congressional hearings, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And nobody epitomizes this approach better than the inimitable Jim Shirtsleeves Jordan, another proud member of the Congressional Republican Free Dumb Caucus, and the best ranter and raver in all of Congress. He's like an angry chimp, jumping up and down, squealing, baring his teeth, and he's never seen a Russia investigation finding a fact that wasn't worthy of his outrage. In fact, by the time he's finished pounding on his desk and screaming and yelling, he's soaking wet. It's no wonder he never wears a suit coat. He looks like he just stepped out of a shower, which is ironic considering his colleagues immediately start urging him, pleading with him to please step into a shower. Now, no doubt, Shirtsleeves believes his anger is justified, since within the Trumpian universe, the president and all of his convicted cohorts are innocent of all charges. As Don Jr. likes to say, it all amounts to nothing more than a big, fat nothing burger. Is that like the pot calling the kettle black? In reality, though, most objective observers say the FBI had no choice but to look into a potentially serious threat to our national security. It would have been dereliction of duty to have not done so. But AG Bill Barr begs to differ. He claims the investigation wasn't properly predicated. Really? Foreign interference in our election isn't sufficient cause to launch an investigation? Not according to Barr. As he sees it, they were really out to spy on the president. But seriously, who would want to risk peering through the president's window just as he's squeezing into his tennis shorts? That could traumatize you for life. Not so, says Barr. Why, the lucky viewer would be treated to two well-marbled alabaster slabs against a glittering gold background. But hey, let's face it, as the president's most talented ventriloquist dummy, it's not the first time Barr's mouthed the president's talking points, and you can be sure once he's finished stuffing his cheek pouches, it won't be the last. Well, after issuing his misleading Mueller investigation take, Bill Barr retires to the deli line to fill up his plate. While Senators Graham and Johnson promote Russian propaganda, the president whines about the truth not being fair. Bill Barr threatens to fire anyone who dares examine Trump's financial affairs, while the president throws another felon pardoning extravaganza. They wave the flag and claim to be patriotic while doing the bidding of a criminally psychotic despot who tried to invalidate America's vote. Why would they turn on the special prosecutor if they weren't really out to neuter the investigation and turn Russia into the hero instead of the goat? Well, the Russians deny collusion. Naturally, they wish to avoid embarrassment. Even if they bought into the Trump illusion, they couldn't have known he'd be this incompetent. It may look like they made out like bandits, but they've shown the world they can't be trusted, while saddling themselves with a fool who is about to get busted. Speaking of getting busted, after the president's best friend, Roger Stone, had indeed gotten himself busted and was about to be sentenced, the ventriloquist dummy tried to intervene. After all, what if Stone were to tell prosecutors all about his relationship with WikiLeaks on Trump's behalf? You see, as it turns out, according to recently released intelligence reports, Stone had no sooner hung up the phone with WikiLeaks founder than the organization miraculously released a giant trove of stolen DNC emails, just in time to distract from the Access Hollywood tape. As you'll recall, that's the tape where Trump admits he suffers from a compulsive need to forcefully shove his tongue down a woman's throat and start groping her genitals. I don't even wait. Just kiss her, even grab her by her. Well, I think we've heard enough of that dehumanizing line. Time to finally put it and its author, God willing, to rest. Meanwhile, it was Roger Stone to the rescue, taking maximum advantage of the joint handiwork of WikiLeaks and the Russians to help take the pressure off his buddy. Clearly, Trump owed him. Did someone mention pardons? Well, the Russians deny collusion. Naturally, they wish to avoid embarrassment. Even if they bought into the Trump illusion, they couldn't have known he'd be this incompetent. It may look like they made out like bandits, but they've shown the world they can't be trusted, while saddling themselves with a fool who, if there's any justice in this world, is about to get busted. To this day, though, Trump's cult member defenders stand behind him, vying to be first in line in case he decides to bend over. Because remember, in the call to Trump, the end justifies the means. Of course, there's one guy who's always at the head of the line, and that's none other than Rudy, truth isn't truth, Giuliani. From threatening to sue any moron who disagrees with him, to changing his positions in mid-sentence, to spinning outlandish tales of deep state treachery, Rudy creates the kind of instantaneous confusion that Trump thrives on. Once he blasts off into eye-bulging, fury-driven lunacy, who's thinking about Russian collusion? We're all wondering who slipped him the magic mushrooms. Lately, though, Trump and his allies are claiming a secret Justice Department cabal was out to take down the president. As evidence, they point to the lone FISA warrant that omitted crucial exculpatory information about the warrant's subject, in this case, Carter Page. But given Page's previous pro-Russia activities, the FBI considered him worthy of investigation when he suddenly turned up on the president's list of key foreign policy advisors. That in itself seemed odd, considering Page's Russian handlers had long ago written him off as a useful idiot. Let me get this straight now. A useful idiot advising a man who's declared bankruptcy 6 times, paid someone to take his SATs, refuses to release his academic record, and at the last debate insisted he was a business people, and whose greatest political talent, aside from lying, is calling his opponents juvenile names. Now, what could go wrong? Ultimately, though, while one faulty warrant is one too many, it does not Trumpicidal intent imply. So listen up, Vladimir, 'cause the world ain't blind. You may have made Russia your personal gold mine, but it ain't just that you're a crook that makes you such a chump. It's that you try to do business with Mr. Trump. Indeed, a lot of people have tried, but few have succeeded. Trump's usual ploy is to claim their work was shoddy and demand to renegotiate. And if you agree, he'll stick you with a lower price. Or if you don't agree, he'll simply declare bankruptcy and leave everyone holding the bag, including you, Vladimir. So good luck with that. Meanwhile, if the president doesn't inject himself with bleach and suddenly turn whiter than white, I'll tell you next time about how he managed to let an additional 56,000 people die without even trying. Thanks for joining me.